Building products isn't always fun. We aim to create value fast, continuously. But then we hit the corporate firewall, and pow! What happens? Things get complicated. Have you ever heard about prescriptive roadmaps, meeting marathons, prioritization committee? What we do when that happens? We don't give up. We're brave people. We do all we can to create value when nothing seems to matter. Sometimes we win, not always. And what happens when we don't win often? Without further notice, we are demoted. And now I have a question for you, and it's a very sincere one. I want you to answer that as sincerely as you possibly can. Have you ever felt like a backlog manager instead of a product manager? Or were impacted by a product manager behaving as a backlog manager? Raise your hand. Oh, quite some people. The truth is, I was a backlog manager for a while. Nobody told me that, but I wrote user stories so perfectly that any software engineer could implement them without talking to me, of course, without knowing the problem they would solve. I also said yes so many times that the backlog was so bloated that I had no idea where we were going. And yet, I got promoted to senior product manager. The hard truth is, creating value is very hard because most people will promote you for doing other things. And the question is, who cares about value? You care. That's why you're sitting here today, because you're tired of doing nonsense. And today I'm not here to complain about all the things that don't work because there are too many. I'm here to help you understand what distracts us from creating value and what helps us. And for that, we're going to have a serious conversation. It may hurt, but it will be revealing. Let's start looking at different types of reality. The first one is the harsh reality. In the middle of everything, you have product teams. And in this case, product teams here, they are decision followers. Decisions are made outside the team, and they have to follow whatever it is. But it's hard to get inspired in this scenario because they don't know where they are going. There's no vision. And what about strategy? Strategy depends on the mood of the CEO, on the blog post the CEO will read in the morning, or who the CEO will talk to during breakfast. It's always changing. So product teams dream about a strategy. And what happens? They cross their fingers and hope for the best. If they're lucky, then something good is going to happen. What about business? You've got to please the lords, because they are the one calling the shots. And how do you collaborate with them? With a beautiful roadmap for the next 227 years. That's how you work with them. And what about customers? You're not going to talk with customers. You're going to talk about customers with the business. And there's a big chance businesses are not going to talk with customers either, because they know best what it is. Isn't it? So what happens? What is the result of that? You create loads of features that nobody cares. Raise your hand if you have elements from that. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Everyone has. Come on. It is a journey. Where we want to be is not in the harsh reality, but many teams will be part of that. Either we like it or not. We want to be in the promised land. The promised land is very different. And I would say it's a place to be. It's a journey. So the promised land, product teams are empowered to make decisions. But that's a very different game, because making decisions means you are accountable for your outcome. And you can only make good decisions if you have something to anchor. What does success look like in a few years' time? That's your vision. If you have a vision, you can get there. But then you tell me, how do I make decisions today that will impact something in 10 years' time? That is your strategy. That will simplify decision-making. Who you serve, who you don't serve, which game you are playing, how do you differentiate from competition? Within that, you can uncover what is worth your time. What about business? You're going to partner with business day in, day out. And with customers, in this case, you have access to them. You're going to talk with customers. And you collaborate with business based on an outcome roadmap. And the result is simple. It's where you want to be. You become a value maximizer. But to get here, it is a journey. It's not something simple. It will take months, if not years. And how do you get there? I have been thinking about it for a while, and we need to answer this question. How fit are we to create value? And I call that the prod fit. For many years, I thought that a good product manager was the one who mastered all the frameworks. But it's all about people and collaboration. So performance, what success looks like. And then you have the road mapping, which is your key to empowerment or your free pass to the feature factory club. And how you collaborate, the topology. And then it turns out that we need to help our people grow development. And what else do we need to do? Speak up, feedback culture, and then handle our initiatives. It will end up somehow being a backlog, but let's talk more about initiatives. And then how you make decisions. So let me walk you through these elements of prod fit. And then by the end of it, you should be able to answer how fit you are to create products that matter. So starting with people and performance, it's all about success. So you need to answer this question, what's success? And there are different types of success. The surface one. We think we are very successful. We meet a deadline, and we cheer up. Actually, real success means achieving the outcome we want. I'm not saying deadlines are bad, but deadlines related to output give us only one chance to succeed. It's better when they are related to outcome, because it will force us to make decisions. What is another type of surface success? We do precisely what business wants, but then we miss what customers need. And we need to find problems that are worth solving, meaning problems customers care about, because not everything they care about. And sometimes we simply don't know what success is. Then we just do the work for the sake of it. That's sad. And what about road mapping? That's one of the biggest challenges we are going to have. And we have the illusion roadmap, which is a very classic one. I guess you have seen. We have a lot of tasks for many years ahead of us that we have to deliver. And we deliver all of them. The good roadmap will be about value. But now, if you are part of the illusion roadmap and you are a PM, you're no product manager. I'm sorry, but you are a project manager. And I'm not saying project managers are bad. It's just a different game. You want to be on the product thinking, understanding what is the potential value, which evidence do I have, and how can we move on. And the biggest difference of the illusion roadmap and the value roadmap is the time that it takes for us to learn we're wrong. The question is not if we're wrong, it's when we're going to learn that, to adapt. Illusion roadmaps are very long. I have been with many teams with output roadmaps. And you know, the biggest problem is not the output roadmap. It's when you realize it never mattered. That kills motivation. You spend months creating the roadmap, and then 2 weeks in, pow, new idea, let's change the roadmap. This ad hoc project that comes, squeeze in, and then you have no idea what's going on. And then by the end of the quarter, you have a continuous déjà vu talking about the roadmap. But how do we get out of this trap? I'll give you 2 suggestions. If you are a leader, you need to make the hard choices. Like Simon Sinek said, great leaders aren't the ones coming up with all the great ideas. They are the ones creating the space where great ideas can happen. So if you're a leader, prioritize, empower team with goals. And if you look at me and say, I'm not a leader, what can I do? You can influence. Help people see what you are already seeing it. What about looking at all the features you created over the last 12 months and making a report? How often do users interact with that? How much value does it create? How much value do you take from that? There's a high likelihood you will struggle to answer that. Then you can ask one question to the C-level. Should we keep doing things that nobody cares? And what about topology? That's how teams collaborate. And don't confuse that with hierarchy. These are different things. Topology is how we structure our work. Many teams are in the output topology, and you see that when you have handoffs between teams. But where we want to be is in the outcome, where teams will cross-collaborate, like Chris said earlier today. Now, let me give you an example to make it clear. I was in Germany, and then it was in e-commerce. The operations director came to me and said, David, this inventory is wrong. I can see in the stock. We have it in the warehouse. And I said, OK, but it's not me. Let's talk to the PM from the shop team. I went there. That was Team Blue. And then the PM said, yeah, you know, we consume that from the service team. I went to the Team Green. And Team Green said, we consume that from Team White. I went to Team White. Then Team White told me, it comes from Team Purple. I went to Team Purple. At some point, we have all the Power Rangers in the room. And nobody knew who would solve the bloody problem. So what should we do? We didn't solve, of course. So you don't want to be part of that. What about development and growth? That's how we help our people level up. And that's a very important thing to answer. And there is, again, an illusion of growth. The classic one is we don't want to make decisions as leader, so we assign a training budget. We say, all of you, just choose whatever you want. You have a training budget. We need to be intentional. Which capabilities do we lack, and how do we level up our people? That's what leaders should do. And how often? And how? So sometimes we tend to look at job description and say, you're falling short here and here and here. We should care more about talent potential. What are people good at? How do we level their potential, and so on? And the frequency should not be a yearly review. That takes just too long. The way I like doing that is continuously, once a quarter. For example, create a framework, and then you evaluate. Ask people to do a self-assessment based on behaviors. What is the behavior of a junior, intermediate, and so on? For PMs, I like doing something I call it CLAIM. It's communication, leadership, alignment, impact thinking, and method. You can screenshot this one and get it for free, and you can tweak for yourself. You can run the assessment. And why is it important? Because it's based on behavior. And then you can discuss every quarter and start changing the behavior and help people grow. So that's how we can help people grow. For example, once a quarter, we run that. And feedback culture. Feedback is not about criticizing people. It's all about growth. It's about helping people become better. And when you are part of feedback culture, problems are solved while they are still small. So you need to understand the candor. I come from Brazil, and giving feedback in Brazil, we beat around the bush. We don't say what we mean, and we hope people understand, which nobody does. It took me a while, and Germany is what solved that for me. But we need to be proactive. Many people ask me, like, I don't get feedback. And then I ask them, like, when was the last time you requested? I didn't. And we want to have a structured way of giving and receiving feedback. Feedback should be based on observation and impact, not on interpretation, because that's what you think. Let me give you another example. I was in Brazil. I was already a senior backlog manager, let's be honest. My product director told me, David, I want you to create a report of all features, screenshot them. And I said, why do you want that? He said, I want to show progress to the leadership team. I didn't have a better idea on the fly. I said, yes. So I went to my computer. Guess what I did? Screenshot everything, put on a Word document, export to PDF, and I sent to him. It took about 2 minutes, 30 seconds to receive an email back saying, come to my desk. I went there. I knew I was in trouble. And then he looked at me. Does this document reflect the quality of your work? I couldn't say yes to this. I stayed quiet. And then he said, if you said yes to something, you should be able to sign that document. And this doesn't seem to reflect your quality. Since that moment, when I'm about to send something, I ask this question. I'm not a perfectionist, but that document was anything but good enough. So I learned my lesson. And this kind of feedback is transformative. What about initiative management? Initiative management, it is about how you handle the ideas you have and so on. Many teams will call that as backlog. And that will be also your key to become a backlog manager if you do the classic thing. Whatever people ask you, you put in the backlog. Yeah, right? So requirement focus and so on, and everything is there. The way we want to think is a bit different. We want to have a lean way of managing the backlog, focus on context and short iterations. Once again, I'm going to give you an example of Germany. I arrived there 2017, and my manager told me, David, to understand how we work, you've got to go through our backlog. Everything is in there. I said, sure, 1,700 plus items. I said, ooh, that's going to take some time. And I started reading and talking to stakeholders. And nobody knew. What was that? I talked to more people and said, I don't know, maybe for later, maybe for later. I got fed up. I said, you know what? I will delete everything that nobody touched over the last 6 months and see what happens. I knew they would receive an email, but I said, whatever. So I did that. I deleted the items, literally. Nobody cared. I received 2 emails, to be honest. One was a marketing analyst saying, I really didn't write that. That's not me. Someone hacked my account. Something else. And then the other was a QA engineer saying, you know what? This bug was closed a year ago. I just couldn't find the ticket. That made me realize one thing. Whatever is important will come back to you with the right context, because backlog items age like milk, not wine. If there's one thing you take from today is this. Kill the old so the new can find its space. The last part we have here is all about decision making, trade-offs. When we empower teams to make decisions, we need to give them the chance of making trade-offs. And sometimes this is just quick. The most classic is based on scope, project management. It should be based on the value stream you aim to create. Maybe you shorten value or something like that. And you should also have clear options, what you can use, what you cannot use, and how you do that. And should be based on evidence. I'll give you another example. The CEO told me, we have good sign-up rate, but our engagement sucks. I said, what can I do to increase it? He said, you can lever our costs. You can increase costs because we want to prove market fit. And I said, what do I need to protect? He said, our reputation. It's already bad enough. Don't make it worse. So I knew what to use. I knew what to protect, where to go. That's how empower teams to make trade-offs. But now, you're busy people. What I want to recommend you is this. Step back from your busy reality. Take a picture of this and do an assessment, an honest one. If you are in the red one and you don't like the result, welcome to the club. If you're a leader, start with the hard things. Start with the roadmap. Make the trash bin bigger. Put that prescriptive roadmap in the trash. Put fire on it and celebrate. If you are a product person, start with the backlog. Delete it. And then you talk about the important things. Your job, many times, is to simplify what others complicate. We don't need to have this complex game. And I want to end this talk with one question for you. What is the one thing you can do today for a better tomorrow? For those of you who don't know me, I am David Pereira, an optimistic and hopeful product advisor and coach. If you ever need any help with this game, drop me a message. I'm pretty sure we can do something together. And one last thing. Last year, I wrote this book, Untrapping Product Teams. It is a book about hope. Hope that you can act today for a better tomorrow. There are a few books there. Buy yours, and I will sign it for you. Thank you.